Some creations are not made for the ordinary world. They are shaped for an environment where intensity defines value, where presence is felt before it is even understood. What you're about to experience is not simply a moment, it's a progression, a steady rise of energy that transforms from something subtle into something undeniable. In this video, you will discover how intensity builds over time, how repetition creates identity, and how controlled energy evolves into a complete experience. You'll understand how something simple can grow into something powerful through timing, structure, and precision. Before we move forward, make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you never miss more informative and educational videos like this. It begins with a single idea, a presence that is almost quiet at first, barely noticeable, yet impossible to ignore once it appears. There is no complexity yet, just a simple signal, repeated, a word, a feeling, an indication that something is starting to take shape. Heat. The intensity begins to rise. At first, it feels isolated, a moment that comes and goes. Then it returns again and again. Each repetition adds weight, building familiarity. What seemed random now starts to feel intentional. There is a pause, filled with subtle background motion. A rhythm forms underneath, not loud, but consistent. It supports the repetition, giving it structure. You begin to notice how the experience is not static. It's moving forward, slowly but deliberately. Then, the intensity shifts. The phrase evolves. It's no longer just present, it starts to expand. The energy rises slightly, becoming more noticeable. The environment begins to feel warmer, more active, more alive. Heat up. That small change introduces direction. It signals growth. Something is no longer just existing, it is increasing. The repetition continues, but now it carries meaning. Each instance feels like a step forward, like a gradual climb. The rhythm underneath continues to guide everything. You can feel how each moment connects to the next. There are no sudden jumps, no disruptions, just a smooth progression that builds confidence. The experience is no longer uncertain, it is forming. Then comes clarity. The phrase becomes complete. Heat up here. Now, the direction is fully established. It's not just rising, it has reached a place. A point where the intensity gathers and holds. You begin to understand that this isn't random repetition, it's structured escalation. And with that understanding, the energy becomes stronger. The word returns again. Heat. But now it feels different. Heavier, more present. It no longer fades into the background. It stays. It holds your attention. And as it repeats, it reinforces itself, becoming the core of everything. The rhythm continues, steady and controlled. There are moments where it softens slightly, allowing space for the intensity to settle. Then it builds again. Each cycle feels more refined than the last, more precise, more deliberate. You begin to notice how the repetition is evolving. It's no longer just repetition, it's identity, heat. Each time it appears, it strengthens the structure. It creates consistency. It keeps everything aligned. And that alignment is what allows the intensity to grow without becoming chaotic. This is where control becomes visible, because even as the energy rises, nothing feels unstable. Everything remains balanced. The rhythm holds. The pacing stays measured. The experience feels intentional from beginning to end. There are moments of pure background motion, music that carries the flow forward. These moments are not empty. They serve a purpose. They allow the intensity to breathe, to reset slightly before rising again. And when it returns stronger. Heat. Now it feels constant. Not something that appears and disappears, but something that exists continuously. It fills the space, defining the experience. Then again, the phrase evolves. Heat up. And once more, it completes itself. Up here. You can feel how everything is now connected. The repetition, the rhythm, the progression, they all point in the same direction. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is unnecessary. Every moment contributes. And as the sequence continues, the intensity becomes undeniable. The word repeats again and again, but it never feels empty. Each repetition carries the weight of everything that came before it. Each moment builds on the last. You are no longer at the beginning. You are inside the process. And now the experience is no longer forming. It has formed. The heat is present, the rhythm is established, and the progression is moving forward with complete clarity. And now that the structure is fully established, the experience begins to move with greater certainty. What started as a simple signal has transformed into something consistent. The repetition is no longer building identity, it has already defined it. Now it begins to reinforce it. The heat remains constant. It no longer appears in isolated moments. It stays, because once something becomes predictable in presence, it becomes immersive in effect. You begin to realize that repetition is not limitation, it is precision. Each cycle is an opportunity to refine the experience further, to make it clearer, sharper, more controlled. And that's exactly what happens. The heat continues to return, but now it feels more integrated than ever. Heat, heat, then again supported by the rhythm, and again with complete consistency. The background elements continue to play their role. They create space, allowing the intensity to breathe. They prevent the experience from becoming overwhelming, while still maintaining its presence. This balance is what defines this stage. Because now everything feels stable, not static, but controlled. The experience simply exists at a level where everything works as it should. And within that control, anticipation begins to form again. Not from uncertainty, but from awareness. You can sense that this is leading somewhere. The repetition is too deliberate, the rhythm too precise, something is coming. Because even as intensity increases, control is never lost. The rhythm continues to guide everything, steady, reliable, unchanging in its purpose. And within that stability, the heat continues to build, not outward, but inward. It becomes more concentrated, more focused, more deliberate. This is where refinement reaches a higher level, because it's no longer about adding more, it's about sharpening what already exists. Heat, heat. The flow becomes even more seamless. Everything feels aligned, as if every element has found its exact place. This is where mastery becomes visible, not in how much intensity is created, but in how well it is controlled. The ability to maintain structure while increasing pressure, that's what defines this level. The direction is clear. You are no longer building towards something unknown, you are approaching something inevitable. And when it arrives, it will feel deserved. Everything that has been building starts to converge into something sharper, more focused. The experience is no longer expanding outward, it is narrowing. Each repetition now feels complete in itself, a signal that everything has reached a level where nothing needs to be added. Heat, heat. The rhythm supports this perfectly, steady, unbreakable. It carries the experience forward without forcing it. There is no pressure to increase, no need to accelerate. Everything exists exactly where it should. This is where true control reveals itself. Because holding intensity is more difficult than building it. And here, that control is absolute. Nothing slips, nothing fades, every element remains aligned. You begin to notice how the flow becomes almost seamless. There are no visible transitions anymore, just continuity. One moment blends into the next so smoothly that it feels like a single, uninterrupted experience. And within that continuity, small variations become more powerful. A slight pause feels significant. A subtle shift in rhythm feels intentional. These details don't break the flow, they define it. They give depth to something already refined, making each moment feel deliberate. Then the phrase returns again with full clarity, heat up, and once more up here. But now it doesn't introduce direction, it confirms arrival. Everything that was once building toward this point is now fully realized. The progression has reached its destination, and the experience reflects that with complete confidence. The heat continues, but now it feels integrated, not separate, not repeated, just present. Heat, heat, heat. Each instance blends into the next, creating a continuous sense of intensity that never drops. It's no longer something you follow, it's something you exist within. The background elements remain subtle but essential. They support the flow without distracting from it. They create just enough space to keep everything balanced, ensuring that the intensity never becomes overwhelming. This balance is what defines this stage, because now everything feels stable. Not static, but perfectly controlled. You can sense a kind of equilibrium, a point where every element has found its place, working together without conflict. Nothing stands out unnecessarily, nothing feels out of sync. This is unity, a state where repetition, rhythm, and intensity all operate as one. And within that unity there is confidence, not forced, not exaggerated, just natural. The kind that comes from precision, the kind that comes from knowing that nothing needs to be changed. You begin to realize that the experience could stop here and it would feel complete. But it doesn't, because there is still a final shift ahead. You can feel it, not through sudden movement, but through subtle preparation. The rhythm remains steady, but there's a slight awareness building beneath it, a quiet indication that something more is about to happen. The heat remains constant, the structure remains intact, the flow remains uninterrupted. But the direction is evolving once again. This is what makes this stage so important. It confirms that everything so far has been intentional, that every repetition, every moment, every layer has led to this point, not as an ending, but as a transition. Because true mastery does not stop at control. It uses it, shapes it, and prepares it for something final. And now, with everything aligned and fully realized, the experience stands ready to move into its last and most defining phase. And now, that final phase begins to unfold in a way that feels both controlled and unmistakably real. What was once pure structure starts to carry a new layer, expression. The intensity remains, the rhythm stays intact, but something within the experience shifts. It becomes more responsive, more aware of itself. You can feel it immediately. The flow is still steady, but it's no longer rigid. It adapts slightly as if reacting to its own momentum. Each moment feels less mechanical and more alive. This is where control transforms into interaction. Earlier, everything followed a defined path. Now it begins to respond within that path. The rhythm adjusts in small ways. The timing shifts just enough to create variation without breaking the structure. And within that variation, something unexpected appears. A reaction. A brief moment that stands out from the controlled flow. It doesn't disrupt the experience, but it adds depth. It reminds you that intensity, when fully developed, naturally leads to response. You hear it in the tone, a shift, a release, a subtle break from perfect control. And then the intensity answers back. Not by losing balance, but by becoming more expressive. The rhythm continues, but now it feels more dynamic. The pacing carries a sense of movement that wasn't there before. This is where unpredictability enters, but in a controlled form, not chaos, just variation. Enough to keep the experience engaging, enough to prevent it from becoming repetitive, while still maintaining its identity. Then, for a brief moment, everything peaks differently. Not through precision, but through release. A surge of raw intensity, short, direct, noticeable. It cuts through the controlled structure, creating contrast, and that contrast makes the moment powerful. But it doesn't last, because immediately after, the system returns to balance. The rhythm stabilizes, the flow regains its precision, and everything settles back into control. But something has changed. The experience now carries memory. That brief release leaves an impact. It adds context to everything that follows. You are no longer just experiencing progression. You are aware of what has already happened. And that awareness deepens everything. You begin to sense a higher level of control now. Not just structural, but intentional. The system isn't just maintaining balance, it is choosing it. Deliberately returning to precision after stepping beyond it. That choice defines this stage. Because earlier control was required, now it is conscious. The heat continues, but it feels fully integrated. Heat. Not as repetition, but as presence. The rhythm continues, but now it feels resolved. Each moment carries weight, not because it builds towards something, but because it reflects what has already been achieved. Everything feels clearer, more refined, more deliberate. You begin to sense that the experience is approaching its conclusion. Not because it is slowing down, but because it has reached a level where nothing more needs to be added. The direction is no longer forming, it is final. The heat remains steady, the structure remains strong, the flow remains uninterrupted. But now, everything feels complete. There is no urgency, no pressure to build further, just a steady movement toward closure. And within that movement, there is confidence. Because the experience knows exactly where it is going. And now, only one final stage remains, where everything that has been built, refined, and expressed will settle into its ultimate form. And now, everything settles into its final form. The journey that began with a simple signal, subtle, repeated, almost uncertain, has reached a point where nothing feels incomplete. The intensity that once needed to build now exists fully, without effort. You can feel the difference immediately. The rhythm is maintaining presence. Every moment feels stable. Not static, but fully controlled. This is where everything aligns, shaping everything without needing to stand out. This is where refinement becomes clarity. Every part of the experience contributes directly to the whole without distraction. There's a quiet moment within the flow. Not a pause, but a realization. It all fits together. Nothing feels out of place. Nothing feels unfinished. The rhythm continues, but it no longer builds tension. It maintains calm. This is stability at its highest level. Everything that needed to be expressed has been delivered. And now, the result stands complete. That is the essence of mastery. Not just creating intensity, but controlling it. Not just building energy, but shaping it. And ultimately, knowing when it has reached its final form. The heat remains, but it no longer demands attention. The rhythm continues, but it no longer drives progression. Everything exists in balance, and that balance is what defines the end. Nothing more is needed, nothing more is required, because everything has already been said, clearly, precisely, and without excess. This is the final stage, not louder, not greater, but more refined, more certain, and completely finished.